Once upon a time, our tribesmen, the Silians, used to swim in these waters. They revered the thunder, trees, and the sun. For the Silians, trees held a deep symbolic significance, especially the oak tree. Here in Stelmužė, it is believed that this here was a holy place. We believe that under such a powerful oak tree, under which no other trees grow, in such an open place, the crooks, who turned to the pagan gods, asked for peace for their tribe during the war, and burned big bonfires on the mounds. No doubt, ancient rituals took place here. The age of Stelmužė oak tree is certainly up for debate. Its actual age is between 420 and 620 years. Even though I find it to be really beautiful and would like to claim that it is at least 1,000 years old, the truth is that it is just an average 520 years old. And I can make this claim based on the measurements taken in 1956, 2011 and 2020. This determines how much the diameter has altered. I can say the same from drilling. The Stelmužė oak tree was measured based on the annual grooves that we have managed to drill since 1952. We also measured 46 other oak trees that are larger than 2 meters in diameter using various techniques. So let's say their average diameter is roughly 2.20 meters. In other words, they are contemporaries of Stelmužė oak tree. They are not older than 1,000 years. They are all 300, 400, 500 years old. Yes, this is a book I wrote a few years ago called Acts of Selonia. It includes the most significant documents relating to the history of the Selonians. Thus, Bishop Albert of Riga founded the Diocese of Selonia in 1218. And they announced Bernhard from Lipa as their first bishop. This is the oldest diocese, the territory of which included at least a nominal part of the territory of Lithuania, and precisely those lands where Stelmužė and possibly ZARASI district is located. This map illustrates how far Nīdzgale could really reach. In theory, Stelmužė could in principle belong to Nīdzgales land. One is the deed of 1261 attributed to Mindaugas, and the boundaries of the deed are already quite wide. And what could be here in Stelmužė? Well, let's see if oak doesn't reach 13th century based on current data, even if it is a younger oak. This oak grove may be older because trees in oak groves constantly replace one another. Age ends for some, begins for others, etc. In other words, that holy place, the pagan holy place, could have been here. The late period of Selonia is very interesting to study, and more research is required to confirm that although mounds near Stelmužė occasionally lack late layers, there may be still suitable locations to search for the first signs of those historical areas and Selonians' cultural history. We are in the cemetery, in the place where the owners of the Stelmužė manor were buried since the beginning of the 18th century. When we get to the cemetery, we see a memorial board that says, "The VęSTURE family rests here." Vadim Folkerzam, who was and is regarded as the last representative of the Folkerzam family, the owner here, is the person whose name is listed as the owner of Stelmužė mansion in historical documents up until the year 1924. What about the VęSTURE family then? It turns out that in 1836, Karl Valerian Folkerzam married Alexandra Valiueva. They settled here in the Stelmužė estate. Now we agree in the literature that Valiuevs were the owners. And apparently that's what this memorial board is about. And now it is time to reveal the curtain behind which we will find out who the real owners were. Why, where? I am. Yes, you are. You were Valiueva. You married to Folkerzam and got the surname Folkerzam. And your children also got the Folkerzam surname. As a result, the owners are the Folkerzams and the Valiuevs are relatives. Lords. Lords. In any case, it is a pity that such an interesting building is still called by such a stupid name, Slave Tower. Just think about it. Have you ever seen such a prison, which is high, with very thick walls, with very little space inside? However, during the Soviet era, someone had an idea and they created some sort of room or museum where there were torture devices and other things. Despite having been an independent state for 30 years, we still retain all that Soviet propaganda. I think it's time to get rid of these things. It's time for everyone to understand that this for sure is not a slave tower. Girl, your lies are like this fog. It's time to clear up. All these emotions are played out and fake. There was no torture here. There were no slaves here. All of these are fairy tales. Let's go down and talk about how and who really got here. And my colleague Simona Burukaitė will explain what was actually in this building. So please, let's go. I have been researching the history of Stelmužė for many years, and I found a number of historical written documents that mention that there was once a castle in Stelmužė, which actually stood on a plateau surrounded by a lake, a defensive ditch, an embankment and a drawbridge structure. So I think this tower may have once been a part of a drawbridge structure. Naturally, as the years passed, the manor's appearance changed, the castles fell to pieces, manors were rebuilt comfortable to live in. In addition, the purpose of those buildings probably changed as well. This building was used as a smokehouse by Folkerzam Hannes and Repšė. To say that Georg Friedrich von Folkerzam, or the Folkerzam family in general, was very cruel would be incorrect, because he was a landlord who looked after his peasants, and year after year he built houses for the peasants, gave fruit trees from his gardens, and all the peasants in the Stelmužė estate had their own orchards. Therefore, it would be inaccurate to claim that the Folkersson family was harsh and imprisoned their villagers in the slave tower, as it is known in the myth. Serfhood was also abolished in Stelmužė in 1817, which is significantly earlier than in all the territory of Lithuania. We are in VęSTURE St. Lawrence Church, which is one of the three churches, like Stelmužė, like Supate Church, and is believed to have been built by the same master's school, which is called either the Supate Master's School or the Stelmužė Master's School. The same carving in the Baroque style is evident. The only difference is that all the carvings in this church are covered with colors. Stelmužės Baroque is colorless. Elements, pulpits. The bas relief representing the Last Supper is also visible on the left side. Elements of the main altar, columns, sculptures of saints, really have a lot in common. I think that this is a great material for art historians. We are in the Church of the Cross of the Lord Jesus in Stelmužė. A wooden church built without nails is not the only thing that makes this church special. Art experts have already said that it is very valuable. It is a pulpit, an altar, and there was also a bas relief here that depicts the Last Supper. Sadly, it hasn't returned yet, but we hope that it will return back to its original place. Art critics first claimed that these carvings were the work of unidentified Latvian masters. However, RE�IONÄ now claims that there was a school for those masters right here in Stelmužė. And we can even be proud that Stelmužė is not only historically discovered as Troy, let's say, but also from an artistic point of view, these are very interesting things. And we can see that the church stations and Mary's altar, which has been rebuilt, are still present. Perhaps telling everyone about this intriguing stuff today is really important. The carvings of the Stelmužė church are comparable to the carvings of the Riga Cathedral. Stelmužė has a church with exceptional significance due to its pulpit sculpture and altar. In 1567, Gotthard Kettler issued an order that 70 churches should be built in the territories of Kuri and Spit, and specifically in Zemgale. One of these, which was listed in 1596, was the von Berken family chapel. But what I want to emphasize is that it is called the von Berken chapel. This is also because it is here below that the crypts of the von Berken family were located, where they were buried. And during the Napoleonic Wars, those crypts were expanded and walled up. A priest from an Egyptian village visited once per month, because this particular chapel belonged to the Egyptian branch. In 1707 till 1711, it had its own priest. Currently, we are at the Stelmužė manor estate. This is the stable, the remains. This manor homestead has been maintained since around 2006. In 2012, the church itself was restored. The project to clean up the park and bell tower was completed after another 2 years. In the present moment, when the municipality manages part of the territory and plans to further develop the tourism, all the owners should come together, sit down and discuss what strategy is needed in the management of this estate. As I say, this is a no-kill construction, stone, red bricks. Despite environmental damage, such a building can last for a long time. It will survive if you give it a frequent attention. Hello, welcome to Daugavpils University. Please. Our cooperation with Lithuania has a long history. We always stop by Stelmužė on our way to Vilnius or Kaunas. That place attracts us. Well, and general history. This initiative was proposed by our colleagues from ZARASI, and our Department of History at Daugavpils University was interested in it. And I think that new books will appear, because the work was in the archives, fresh information was found. This could be the next stage of cooperation, and maybe, as a result of it, we will be remembered in history, because we created a memorable story about Stelmužė. Today it is the territory of Lithuania, but culturally and historically, Stelmužė belongs to both Lithuania and Latvia. This project is intriguing, not just for the research and the hunt for original materials, but also for the fact that it is a program to attract a large flow of tourists not only to Stelmužė, but to our region in general. We are now at the Terra Mariana booth. The first thing we notice at the stand is a facsimile. The original was made 130 years ago as a gift to Pope Leo XIII on the anniversary of his priesthood. The album is called Terra Mariana. In the Middle Ages it was Livonia, which included Latvia, Estonia and a small part of modern Lithuania. As a country, Lithuania did not enter Terra Mariana, but the borders changed all the time, so the album contains several scenes from Lithuania. The album's text is a narrative about the happenings in our area, events between 1186 and 1888. 10 such facsimiles were made. Here is an example of a facsimile. One copy was handed over to the President of Lithuania. The ILGTSPÄ church mentioned in the list is number 1. It is interesting that Stelmužė church is mentioned here as a branch church. Folkerzem, the landowner of the surrounding areas, and the time of the construction of the Stelmužė church are both mentioned. With his own money, Baron for Folkerzem constructed the church of Stelmužė in 1560. So we are in Riga, in the State History Archive of Latvia. As you know, Stelmužė belonged to Livonia, and only came to the territory of Lithuania 100 years ago. We are looking for the earliest mention of Stelmužė. Here we see the 1769 inventory, DZÜ Steinensee. Don't be surprised. Steinensee is German and probably the first name that appears in all sources when talking about Stelmužė. Number 1. This is a privilege granted by Master Walter Plettenberg in Steinensee and Rautensee, Raudynė in Lithuanian, to Henrich Forberken, issued in Valmiera in 1532. We are in the National Library of Latvia in the department of rare books, in the reading room where a special manuscript is kept. The author of the manuscript is Baron Armin Folkersam. Baron Armin Folkersam was an important member of the Folkersam family in the 20th century. During his lifetime, Armin Folkersam achieved fame as a maker of book plates. He worked as a herald. He explains the history of his family. Thus, an entire section in this manuscript is devoted to the coat of arms. What should be the circle that is in the heraldic shield? During those times, let's say 18th, 19th century, he criticizes modernization. He writes that the number of spokes in the circle has increased, and he takes us back to the real origin of the coat of arms. He says that the coat of arms of the family is taken from a related to Saint Catherine of Alexandria. There she is portrayed either holding or standing next to a circle with a split section. According to Folkersam, the knights who served the seigneurs and went on the crusades had this coat of arms. As about Stelmužė, this was a completely unexpected proposal from Ilze Scheinberg to me. I ended up in the Herder Library, which is the city of Marburg. When I made a list of what I wanted to see, the archive worker immediately wrote to me that, unfortunately, he would not delve into the whole matter. It is easier for him to provide me with all this material that they have, so that I myself would look for what I need. So I got an unlimited access. I had to search and leaf through a huge number of documents that were written both by hand and typed. And many thanks to Helmmaker von Folkersam himself for typing. He knew that his handwriting was illegible, and this made my work very easy, because it was a huge amount of material that I was able to revise. I found some connections with Stelmužė. First of all, these are records from church books, where they indicated not only who was born or who died, they also indicated relatives, who they belonged to, where they lived, how it all looked like, including Stelmužė and other Folkersams themselves. Almost everywhere there is a sign that they really lived in Stelmužė. We are in the library of Vilnius University, Lelevelis Hall. The single manuscript connected to Stelmužė was discovered during the searches at Lithuanian Academy of Sciences Vrublevskis library, in the manuscript section. And it was a typewritten sheet on which was written, "I authorized Mariona Živelnaitė to take the books donated by Gerhard Hahn from the Stelmužė estate." So, who Mr. Hahn is? Hahn, and more specifically Herbert Hahn, received the Stelmužė estate in January after Vadim Folkersam passed away. Currently, 56 books have survived to this day. Many of these books have bookmarks, ex libris. They are twofold. One has an entry without a surname. It is simply an ex libris Steinensee, and the other is with the surname Folkersem. The books of the Stelmužė manor are also rich in other bookmarks. One of the rarer things we see is a heraldic imprint done in a congreve. It shows the coat of arms of the Folkersem family, which includes a modern wheel with 12 spokes. That material object is a book. What we have right now is this. It is what has endured as a value from the mobile heritage. I am a new resident of Stelmužė, and it was just a few months ago that I moved to Stelmužė. However, the first thought about arriving in Stelmužė was to present a bell to the belfry, seeing that there was no bell in the tower, so that the village would be alive. If the bell rings, it is alive. If there is no bell in the belfry, it is empty. It symbolizes emptiness or death. It is symbolic that the bell is made in Riga, and the history of Stelmužė is closely connected with Latvian and the Livonian order. Additionally, the bell was made in 1889. It was a wonderful coincidence that Vincas Kudirka began publishing the newspaper Vārpas in Little Lithuania in 1889 as a symbol and herald of national revival. Therefore, when I give this bell as a gift, I wanted to symbolize spiritual rebirth and new life in Stelmužė.